All right, welcome to The Boy That Loved, a Boys Love podcast hosted by me, Dion. Hello, everyone. Today we're doing a new minisode, and I thought I would just do some reviews on shows for this little minisode series. And I thought I would start with Dangerous Romance. Now, if you guys didn't know, I have been reacting to Dangerous Romance. Not since the beginning. I kind of binged react after I was told that it was so good and like people wanted me to see it. And so I decided to watch it. Um, Unfortunately, I dislike this show. Like, I really don't like it. I don't think, it's not, maybe I shouldn't say I dislike it. I just don't think it's good, objectively speaking. I don't think it's good. And I understand it has those boys love tropes and the chemistry between the two leads is good. Like the actors are really doing a good job. But the storytelling, directing is just not objectively a good outing. The storytelling is just nearly non-existent almost. It doesn't make sense to me. So I decided I would drop it. Especially last week's episode. I did record a reaction to it, but I had lost the recorded footage, so I couldn't make the video, and I felt that was a sign, like, oh, just stop. You waste your time with this reaction, and now you can't use it. It's time for you to pump the brakes. Um, but instead of just completely dropping it, I decided to watch it on 2x speed, and I was like, oh, I should do a review of each of the episodes going forward. It's gonna be mostly me complaining. However, it may be entertaining to you guys to hear that because some of you guys love my frustration with shows and you like my reactions because I'm frustrated. So maybe I'll just give you a little bit of something, okay? Um, with all that being said, before we get started, make sure you guys subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, follow me on my social media links below, and yeah, let's get right into it. Okay, so this episode it comes after Kong finds out his dad pays off the coach to get him on the team, and he's having a midlife crisis at 17 years old. Oh my goodness! So he decides he wants to go and teach his dad a lesson by running away and stealing his money and spending it. His man Salman is on his team with this, and they're going together, Bonnie and Clyde style. Now, a few things to note here. Throughout this episode, I was like, Salman, he don't have a storyline of his own anymore. Like, he seemed like he was the main character of the show, and it's shifted to Perp's character, Kong, and I don't understand that. And I understand that most of these shows have a lead, and then, like, their love interest also is second billing, and some shows do have more of a equal footing. But this show seemed like Chimin was the lead, Perth was the love interest who also has own little thing going on, co-leads almost, but it really shifted so quickly. It went. Perth is the star of Dangerous Romance. I mean, basically, which I find interesting because his character has nothing to do but support Kong's antics, and I find it odd because early on he wouldn't accept money for work he didn't do, any handouts, any of that kind of thing. He wants to work for the money to pay off his debts or whatever the case may be. And in this episode, he had no problem with spending money that's not his. I mean, he didn't take the money, but the money that was taken from Kong's father was spent on him, from the clothes to the food to the hotel, the spa day. Now he did deny, or yeah, he didn't accept the money for it to pay off his debts. So I guess that goes in line with his character, but I don't see the difference between his debts being paid off and him using all that money he could use for his debts on himself to have a couple days of leisure. I mean, they spent all that money from that first withdrawal. So I'm like, which is it? And I guess it's my fault for thinking he'd be a voice of reason. I mean, we do find out later on that he's just been with Kong and just kind of going with the flow. Because he's been in contact with his dad, just keep tabs on him. So we found out he was, on the, he's a man on the inside, basically. Which is very interesting because it seems like this show lets Kong just do whatever he wants, and he has no like consequences to his actions for the most part. Now, I will say in this episode, he does get his. Because he causes his own problem. He went. So let me go back. So they spend the money. He decides to sell the bike that his dad got for his birthday, and he ends up out of nowhere after he sells it at the hotel, feeling guilty that he sold it, wants to buy it back. No, actually, wait. He sold the bike to get money to give to those kids who's playing soccer, which I don't understand why the show is doing that, because I guess the show presents him as a very selfish, unlikable person, in my opinion, and for him to have like this trait of him feeling guilty for the things he does, and him try to do things to kind of make up for it is very odd. Like him, I guess, doing a charity for the kids is supposed to seem like, oh, he has a heart, and like, oh, he feels bad, but him doing all this stuff in the first place, him stealing from his dad in the first place, already makes him like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I don't like him, and not like I love to dislike him. I just don't like him. He's not a likable character. But it doesn't matter, because anything he does, it doesn't matter in the end. It works out. You'll see why. So he wants to buy it back, but the guy wasn't trying to let him buy it back, so he just decides to sell things off, and then he decides to go and do some gambling at the pool hall. And Salman right there with him, making sure he's okay and on his team about it, which is nice. I guess you're a couple and all, so I guess that's nice. I don't know if I want him to be nagging him the whole time. But now we see why he didn't nag him. And things started working out, making that money back by betting on the pool table. And then he went to the top, situation with the VIPs, and it was still working, but they started to get crunk with him, and they just chased him down, and it was a lot going on. And then you find out that the people who they played at the pool hall were the ones who I guess was like owning the new owners of the bike, and they get beat up and everything. And I don't feel bad for him. He gets himself in these own situations. Like, all this stuff that happened was because of him. And I know he's upset at his dad. I know it's like a thing, but because here's the thing. During the live of the last episode, we went live with Shaki and Alyssa. Everyone was calling Kong's father trash and doing like saying he's this, that, and the third. I'm like, nothing that happened in the show supports that notion at all. At all. I never felt it. He's been so nice and jovial, and then you see the flashbacks of him being just so nice and jovial towards his son, and him feeling guilty for doing this to his father, which we found out he always does this. Apparently his dad's used to it. His dad's like, he be doing this. He be acting out. He'll be back in a few days. And he was right. We see the flashbacks and him being like, well, I've never asked my father for nothing, and it's the first time he got me something. Something I asked for, he got it for me. Which I'm like, aw, that's touching. Dad, you are lit. Like, come on now. And it just made it seem like all this animosity that everyone who had for the dad, like, I'm talking about the reactors and the fans, it didn't make sense to me then, and it definitely proves my point now. You know what I mean? Like, he hasn't done anything terrible. I know he paid for, he using his nepotism to get his son to, on the team, but is that so bad? I don't know. I don't seem like it is. And for Kong to be such a jerk and stuff and like acting out like he does, I don't feel bad for him. Boo-hoo, rich kid. I'm so sorry. But we found out later on that someone has been keeping tabs on him, and no one's mad about it, and then I guess they bust down. And that's that on that. It seems like next episode's gonna get really wild. Now, for things that are happening next episode, things they set up here. One, the friends hijinks on the side, still a waste of time in my opinion. Very uninteresting. Their whole like back and forth they do, I could care less about that. It's just a waste of time. I don't find it funny. It's the same old song. Each episode is the same thing they're doing. It's nothing new, nothing different, nothing. We still don't know anything about these two characters. The show would rather us have them just bicker 15 times rather than us to get to know them and also have them bicker. Let's do both, at least. I don't know. And then we have Sci-Fi, his old friend who's the debt collector coming through, shot up. He takes care of him, and there's supposed to be like this emotional moment for this character we've seen literally 3 times. And he's having this like, I don't know, epiphany about how his crime life isn't what for him anymore, and he feels he almost killed someone, but he didn't because I guess Sci-Fi told him that killing someone was in the way or something. I don't know. To me, it was an odd choice. Again, having a character thrust into this emotional pulling situation that we barely get to see or be around, and we're told through verbal exposition about his new journey. I don't know. I don't know. And also, it's all set up for him to get him to the point where he's now the new chauffeur for the boss man. And now we see in the preview for next episode, he's going to be going out of town, I guess. And then he's going to be the reason why Sci-Fi goes to jail, it seems like. There might be some connection there with that. Which is something else in the story, because the whole Kong going away, spend the money, doing his stuff he's doing, this whole episode, it didn't matter. I think any issues he had with his dad, he could have had a conversation with his dad, which he doesn't have. He has all these like guilty moments and epiphany moments without even having a conversation with his father. There's no communication there at all, but he automatically is not about that life anymore. So the issue is solved itself, I guess. Maybe his anger went away, so now he's thinking clearly. Sure, you can say that's what happened. That's kind of basically what happened, but it made it seem like we wasted this whole episode doing nothing. The problem was presented, and it solved itself. And it seems like next episode he's going back to playing soccer. So I'm not saying he could have been upset and kind of lashed out in a little bit, but have it be a whole episode and him not communicating with his father, which is the person he has an issue with, it's just a missed opportunity for something that's really real, authentic, and makes sense. Now, I'm glad I watched this on 2x Zoom because there's so much filler in this. The shopping scenes, the whole montage of them doing stuff in the city was just nothing. And then I know he had the scenes where like he was, want to get back to the kid, or he talked about how he felt guilty, but and I will say I like the fact that he brought his mom and like his whole parents dynamic, but it's just surface level. And we're episode 9 and we're just now getting a little bit of that. That's one of my biggest issues. We could have got some of this stuff early on. When he first presented his issue with his father, we could have brought up the mother and kind of, continue that and like kind of have more information gave to us each episode. We're learning more and more and more and more storylines that kind of aid in that, you know what I mean? And like, but we didn't. I mean, Salmon, his like umbrella thing, what happened to that? Like he had a flashback of him giving an umbrella, Kong being nice to him, and like we haven't seen that since, and that could have been something. And we ain't seen Homegirl in this episode, so what's going on with her? I am grateful, like I said, watch this on 2x Zoom, getting through this in roughly 15 minutes is refreshing. Because sitting here for 45 minutes, I would have been upset. I was upset, even though I had it on the speed up, I was still upset watching. I was like, what do we... Nothing. It's nothing. Even the scene when the debt collector guy came over to the house, which is out of nowhere, like, why are you back at home now? Just for this to happen? There was no setup. There's nothing to connect to this to that. And like, with the whole like him, the debt collector, I forgot his name. With him trying to, not to be fully about that thug gang debt collector life, and him getting a new job by Sci-Fi, it just doesn't make any sense to me for him to do that. Now, I'm not saying he should think badly of his friend, and he seems to not think badly of his friend who brought a gun to his house and who was so rude to him to get him to patch him up because he's in the medical field. For him, like, well, I see your plight. I see you're struggling. I'm gonna get you a job with my new employer seems weird. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I may be part of his character, but it still doesn't make sense to me. So I thought that was odd. Um, and yeah, I think that's about it. Any other thoughts I have on this? Where's Otto? I'm just saying there could have been storylines with all the characters, 2 episode arcs. Otto and his situation with his mom. Maybe it would have been nice to see Kong get in trouble and have to work with the lunch ladies. Maybe like after like the club incident, Kong and Otto have to like do community service, or like maybe the dad makes them like learn responsibility or something and make them work with his mom, and maybe Kong can kind of feel that maternal feeling because maybe Otto's mom reminds him of his mom, and Otto gets to know him through that, and kind of maybe he can display some type of reasoning why he was so angry before, why he lashed out, how he was such a bad bully. Maybe talking to Otto and learning about his past with his mom and what happened when she passed away made him, go to the other side. They could have bonded. Their friendship could have been kind of, And then on top of that, we could have had the other 2 boys who play soccer who are always fighting. Maybe they can have something happen where they have to. I mean, I thought it was going to happen this episode. They have to be roommates and they kind of like bond and stuff. But it's all surface level. It's all like goofy. So I guess that wouldn't be a really compelling narrative with with those two. And they are the ones who are doing something, a side plot, a side situation. But it's not a real story there. They're just annoying each other for 5 minutes at a time. And then Salma, I don't know what we can do with him. Maybe him finding something he really wants to do and trying to figure out how he can do that, but also have a profession that can make money. 'Cause I don't know what his passions are, what he wants to do with his life. And since he's not having a narrative, it's hard to kind of gauge what he would want to do. Because maybe he could become a teacher again, or maybe try to clear his name because he was disgraced by Kong early on. Maybe try to get his name cleared, and that could be his narrative, and trying to change people's minds, perspectives, and maybe Kong can be like, "Hey guys, it was me who did it." Like trying to make it right. Like it. This show is terrible, but I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll probably just keep going and just do another review after each episode, a little after show situation for Dangerous Romance, because I'm not going to react to it again. Ooh. So let me know your thoughts below, and I will see y'all in the next one.